9 signs that a relationship has died. In this video, we'll talk about the signs that indicate it's time to do something in the relationship, to change something, to take action, because the relationship is either already dead or dying. So, in order in this video, and the first sign is the disappearance of communication. If you realize that you and your partner hardly communicate, that you have no points of connection, that you are not interested in discussing certain topics or plans, that your interests do not overlap, and it feels like there is nothing to talk about. If you think about it, you realize that the person next to you feels like a stranger, with whom you cannot discuss anything. It's not even that you can't. You just don't want to do it. You don't want to share something. You don't want to discuss anything. Or this is how it is with your partner. That is, he doesn't want to discuss anything with you. He doesn't want to say anything. Either it's a kind of two-sided stage where neither you nor he wants to discuss anything at all. That is, a moment begins when people start living like neighbors. Moving on. A loss of interest in each other occurs when one partner suddenly finds the other's life uninteresting, meaning they no longer care about what is happening in their partner's day, what problems they're facing at work, or what successes they are achieving at work. And you realize that the person next to you is no longer interesting in terms of their feelings, emotions, and thoughts. They have become not just unimportant, but also irritating. There comes a moment of annoyance when, for example, your partner starts talking about something, and it irritates you. You don't want to listen, you don't want to participate, and you are not interested in what is happening with them, while they, in turn, are not interested in what is happening in your life. Moving on. Constant conflicts and arguments. And there is a cooling off in the relationship. People start to argue more frequently. But if there is still a moment of arguing or conflict, then relationship can still be saved. In other words, when there is still a desire to resolve issues, the relationship exists. It is worse when there is no longer a desire to explain anything or to prove anything, when there is not even a desire to argue anymore. At that point, the relationship is likely at a final stage of ending, meaning it is just a matter of time before someone makes that decision. But if there are still arguments and conflicts, yes, if there are constant arguments and conflicts, then the whole situation worsens and people do not want to be together. There are a lot of unresolved issues and they drift apart. If at this moment we start listening to each other and try to change something in the relationship, then we can take the relationship to a new level. But if these arguments, conflicts, and cooling off are left to run their course, then the relationship is very likely to spiral deeper into a chasm. Intolerance, accusations, and grievances destroy trust, which is the foundation of relationships. Moving on, the feeling of loneliness and lack of support. As soon as you start to feel lonely in a relationship, it means that the relationship is supposed to be an interaction between two people. If you feel lonely in a relationship, it's likely that your partner feels lonely in the relationship as well. And if there is this feeling of loneliness, if there is an understanding that you are alone, even though there is a person next to you, but you cannot rely on them, they do not support you. They do not give you those wings. And you realize that it is only you and, for example, some of your problems. And this feeling of loneliness in a couple, when a person realizes that they are alone, at some point there is a kind of explosion. When, for example, a woman, it'd say, why? Why? If I am alone in a relationship, then I can just as well be alone without a relationship, and I can solve all my problems on my own. And at that moment, decisions about breaking up can be made. The same can happen with a man when he realizes that he is alone, that there is no support, no love, no care, and none of the comfort he needs. Then a man can also make a quick decision to break up. So if you have felt lonely in your relationship, but want to save it, then you need to do something, take some action, change something, shift your perspective on a relationship, try something new, and attempt to make adjustments. This is important because the feeling of loneliness significantly increases the likelihood that the couple will soon break up. If you feel lonely in a relationship, it is likely that your partner feels similarly. Your connection has ceased to be a source of love and support in the relationship. And this connection is two-way, meaning you don't feel support and your support isn't felt either. So, if you want to change the world, start with yourself. If you want to maintain the relationship and want to change something, then start doing something. If you realize that you no longer need this relationship, that you don't want it, then your relationship is already falling apart. If that's the case, lack of physical intimacy, well, this is all a consequence of the previous points. When there is no emotional connection, when there are no feelings, when people become emotionally distant, it is natural for them to also become physically distant. And here, let's say, it's like a snowball. That is, it started with a difficult moment, then it grew more and more, and further and further. And then people gradually became emotionally distant, and then they no longer felt support. Then they no longer want physical contact because they start feeling like strangers to each other. And this moment naturally destroys even more. And this snowball effect builds up. And the relationship gradually falls apart. No plans for the future. This is, again, a huge indicator. A good sign for a relationship is when you are constantly making plans for the future, when you have shared dreams, when you are working towards something, when you have common goals, and even when you have shared problems. That's great too, and you solve them together. It's incredible when people face a situation, a couple faces a situation, and they decide together. And then they feel their strength, their community. In other words, they understand that they are not alone. Not in solitude. They are together, they're a team, they have each other, and they're managing. They dream together, and they're working towards some goals together. They go through some difficulties and move forward together. But if you stop dreaming together, if you stop planning anything, if you don't even know your partner's dreams, if you are unaware of their plans, it means you are already very far apart from each other. So it's a way to come together. To start dreaming together, that is, to talk about something, to discuss a shared future, to talk about your dreams. And when you find some intersections and hear your partner in your shared dreams, then you can combine them into one dream. And then the couple begins to move together in harmony, becoming stronger as they head in the same direction. In relationships, there are points of connection that hold a couple together, such as when they solve a problem together, dream together, help each other in a situation, or support one another. Somewhere we hugged, somewhere we gave each other a compliment. The more of these moments there are, the more points of connection we have, the stronger the bond becomes. But as soon as these points become fewer, it turns out that people start to perceive each other as strangers. And it is at that moment that the thought arises in the woman's mind, what am I doing next to this stranger? After all, I, for example, earn my own money, raise my children by myself, feed them on my own, and provide for them myself. So why do I need someone next to me who doesn't help or support me? I still feel lonely. I still can't rely on him. I have my own dreams, and all of this is a sign that a woman starts to go her own way. Furthermore, the feeling that your partner is an enemy arises when a relationship is on the verge of breaking up, characterized by arguments, conflicts, scandals, or prolonged silence. For instance, when he is silent and you are silent too, when you are not helping or supporting each other, it creates a cold atmosphere around you in your relationship. You start to wonder if this person next to you is the right one, as you perceive him as an enemy, someone foreign and cold. Question what he is thinking, what he is doing, and where he's going. And these feelings are a clear indicator that the relationship has actually died. Next, feeling of indifference. This is the moment I was talking about. That is, if there are still arguments in your relationship, these arguments represent a desire to convey your point of view, a desire to be heard, and a desire for your partner to feel what you are experiencing and what you are feeling. That is, it is also about desire. You still have some desires for him to hear, see, and feel something. But the moment of indifference is a very clear indicator that the relationship has broken down. In other words, the countdown is on for the days when one of you will make a decision. Because when you no longer want to defend your point of view, when you don't want to prove something, explain something, or resolve something, when even arguments disappear in the relationship, this is a clear indicator that the relationship has run its course. And lastly, you can no longer rely on them. Naturally, when people drift apart, when there is a feeling that the other person is an enemy, when there is a sense that they are a stranger, you not only cannot rely on them, but you also unconsciously do not want to rely on them. You don't even try to talk to him or ask him to help you because you want him to be gone. And this feeling that you can only rely on yourself is, let's say, a definitive point in the relationship when a clear decision is made that these relationships can no longer be saved. And then, couple. That's all for this video. This was Alice Vardomska. I hope for your likes and subscriptions. Please write in the comments what you would like to discuss in my new videos. Don't forget to hit the bell, and goodbye everyone.